According to United Nations officials, coalition airstrikes in Yemen, led by the Riyadh regime, are killing huge numbers of civilians, including women and children. Attacks on residential areas and hotels have killed dozens at a time. Officials have stated that in all these cases in which civilians were killed and injured, witnesses had said there have been no warnings that an attack was imminent. These attacks have been systematically destroying much of Yemen's infrastructure. They have occurred against the backdrop of the Houthi Ansarullah movement's efforts to run state affairs since President Abd Rabbu Mansur Hadi resigned and fled to Riyadh in 2014. Yemeni army troops have helped defend the country against the Saudi aggression, as international rights groups have urged Western states, particularly America and Britain, to halt their military support for the attacks. But the bombing continues. The United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights has estimated that between August the 17th and the 24th, 2017, 58 civilians were killed, including 42 by the Saudi-led coalition, as Yemenis regularly searched for the living, the wounded and the dead after airstrikes in residential districts of the capital, Sana'a. Television reports have also shown the fatalities include many women and children. Why are Britain and America so eager to support Saudi Arabia? And how can we make sense of Saudi sending aid to Yemen at the same time as bombing that very country? Simple questions with important answers. 42 people, including children, were killed by Saudi-led forces in a single week in August. The United Nations is aware of this, but seems unlikely to take action. Can anyone stop the Saudis killing Yemeni civilians? We asked the Yemeni public, and here's what they told us. Of course, some people want the world to be a harsh place and don't want the war to end.
No one can stop the war in Yemen but the Yemeni people themselves. If they created an understanding between them and became united. Also, the army and the public committee are able to put an end to all this suffering and the Saudi aggression and their damned coalition.
Only the force can stop the war. This force represented in what the people are suffering from. Only the force that can hit the enemy on their homeland. Because if the enemy saw no force from us, they'll continue attacking and killing innocent civilians.
This is the behaviour of the UN, and it hasn't followed the basic goals of its creation. Therefore, it's taking part in all of the crimes against the Yemeni people. To be able to get out of this issue, there must be pressure on all fronts, especially the northern front. Therefore, the Yemenis are aware of the danger, and they know that a political solution can be achieved by public pressure and resistance.
Regarding the worries from the UN about the massacres in Yemen, they always worry, especially Ban Ki-moon. He always worried, but only when the worry is in his pockets that are not filled with American dollars and Saudi riyals. Also, the new UN Secretary General is doing the same and worries about obtaining Saudi money, which is supposed to be in help of the Muslims, not to kill the men, women and children of Yemen.
The UN is the one which pushed the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to do this and taking part in it. If it was a true United Nations and there was a real Security Council, it would be different, because the UN is America and Israel is the one controlling the US administration.
Well, the only people who can actually do something about it, but they are unwilling to do something about it, are the Americans, because the Saudis from day one, the day they launched the merciless war against the Yemeni people, they've actually declared the war from the United States, that their ambassador then, Adil al-Jubair, declared the war while he was in America. So the only people who can stop it are the Americans, because they have been unwavering in their support to the Saudis. The Saudis rely heavily on them in terms of the intelligence and in terms of actually continuously supplying them with the most advanced weapons, and at the same time they're really relying on them heavily in terms of the air campaign, in terms of actually refueling the Saudi jets, which have been perpetrating under the very eyes of the Americans, who also happen to be in the same operational rooms with the Saudis, that is picking out the targets for the Saudi Air Force.
Well, I don't know, to be honest with you, because last time they criticized Saudi during Moon time, and then he withdrew this. Of course, this is related to money, and Saudi Arabia supporting the United States with money and so on. But I hope with this new General Secretary, this will not happen, and probably it will be stopped, but not in the immediate future. But it might be stopped because the Saudis haven't been successful at all. It is coming to the dead end now.
Saudi Arabia has targeted Yemeni civilians during Hajj. How does the public in Yemen feel about this? This is evidence of their silliness and proof that they're far from Islam and the forbiddances of these months.
The murdering criminal doesn't hesitate to kill Yemenis, even in Al-Hajj season or any other day. Since he's a murderer, he's used to killing no matter how holy the season is.
They want to show their real religion, that we stoned the devil in Arafat, and they hit Muslims and people in Yemen.
There is a contradiction of their words and about Islam being a religion of forgiveness and what the Wahhabi ideology offers to people. And between what happens on the ground, killing innocent people is a proof that the morals don't match their words.
Saudi Arabia targets us at any time and doesn't care about any innocent people or the holiness of Mecca. They're more despicable than Jews and Christians.
Saudi Arabia is targeting the pilgrims and the civilians of Yemen, and at the same time they say, "Here I am at the service of our Lord." And then they come to Yemen to kill its children and to sacrifice them whilst they sacrifice the sheep and camels over there. But they don't differentiate between the sheep and those innocent children. They are a tool at the hands of Israel. They want to make the people afraid of going to Hajj and to kill Muslims and push them away from Hajj.
Those are innocent people being safe in their homes, and they get bombed. How do you feel, I think? It'll be avenged.
Any decent human being would have to be deeply and completely outraged by such actions when they take place during the Hajj pilgrimage, and when the King of Saudi Arabia keeps saying and has given himself the title that he is the guardian of the holy places. That means he looks after them, and he has self-appointed also himself as to being the guardian, the defender of Islam and also Sunni Muslims. Now, those bombs do not actually discriminate or tell the difference between whether a person is Sunni or Shia or Houthi. Most of the people, most of the victims, that is according to the United Nations, have been civilians, and a huge proportion of those civilians are innocent, defenseless children, and they happen to be Muslims. That shows a stark contradiction in what the Saudi king and his son Mohammed bin Salman claim to be defenders, guardians of Islam, and they also claim that most of the terrorist actions taking place in Saudi Arabia, they're paying the price for defending Mecca and Medina, which is completely outrageous and completely groundless and unfounded, when they are the main perpetrators, they are the main culprit and killing more Muslims and actually imposing this savage, brutal, inhumane blockades. And they have become experts in imposing those blockades. They started with Iraq, and then they imposed the blockade against the Islamic Republic of Iran, and then they shifted the blockade to Syria, and then they moved it to Yemen, and they circled the entire country, imposing a murder murderous blockade against all the airports, against all the ports, against all the land borders of Yemen, in order to starve those people and to bring the Yemeni people to their knees.
I mean, the people, the government in Saudi Arabia, they think they are religious people. They adhere to Islamic law. But how could you, it's, according to Islam, it's forbidden to stage a war during these months, of course. I mean, it's even in the Quran, there is an indication of that. But Saudi Arabia proved to be not adhering to Islam at all.
It seems the main political groupings in the American and British political systems are dedicated to supporting the Saudis, no matter how grave their crimes. Why, in the Yemeni public's view, is this happening?
The benefits are overwhelming for the world. That's the world they don't care about anymore, as they act like kings and sultans caring about power. That's what they want in the region.
Of course, the British-American support for Saudi Arabia will continue because it contains many financial benefits to the Americans and the British, and it's in their favour to continue this killing and aggression, to continue selling huge amounts of weapons which they benefit from.
America wants to destroy the region with our own hands, and they can only achieve their goals through us and through their mercenaries.
Everyone is aware of the global plan to take over the region and its resources. Therefore, the tools of the great countries represented in Saudi Arabia and the UAE are working according to these agendas, and they make it easy for those great powers to take over the area.
Saudi Arabia is the American and Israeli hand that strikes the area because America can't fight its own battles against the people, so America recruits armies from within to fight us. These people that God called them in the Quran, hypocrites, and they are trying to take control of the area between the borders of Oman and take the regional wars to make it easy for Israel to establish their so-called Great Israel.
They are the main problem and the main reason for the war. The Saudis are just agents for them and simply shoes for them. But America and Britain are the ones who have the choice for war in Yemen. The war on Yemen came from an American decision, not a Saudi one. Saudi Arabia can't do anything. The foreign minister of Saudi has no decision in this. He can't even make a decision in his bedroom. So he can't make a decision about bombing Yemen.
Although Obama and Clinton have backed the Saudis to the hilt, and they did supply them with the most advanced weaponry, but at the same time, although they didn't actually take any action to implement it, they carried on talking about human rights and political reform in Saudi Arabia each time they visit the Saudis. But they've done nothing on the ground, nothing practical to actually force or compel the Saudis to do anything about human rights. But what makes matter worse now is that Trump is not even talking about it. He is not even mentioning human rights, political reform, or any kind of reform. He's not talking about democracy. He's actually happy, and he is emboldening, he's empowering and encouraging Saudi Arabia to carry on with the massive abhorrent record of human rights violation. No women's right, no right for religious, there are no religious freedoms in Saudi Arabia. He actually chose Saudi Arabia to visit as his first visit outside of the United States, after actually assuming the role of President of the United States, adding weight and lending credibility to the Saudi ideology by actually trying to cover up its tracks of manufacturing, financing and exporting its hardline radical ideology around the world, which, as Obama himself and Clinton has emphasized, they have been the source, the funding to that ideology, and exporting the source of extremism and the source of radicalization all around the world.
Yes, that's true. They are supporting Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is hitting the innocent people in Yemen with American planes, of course. And England is exporting arms to Saudi Arabia. And when some MPs, they shouted to the government that please stop exporting arms, they didn't, and they don't. They are not stopping exporting the arms. Therefore, we believe that they are supporting this war.
In August, Saudi warplanes pounded a neighbourhood in Sana'a, and on one day, 14 civilians were killed, including women and children. In another attack, at least 60 people were killed in Saudi airstrikes which hit a hotel in the north of the capital. But these statistics are dwarfed by the fact that, since Saudi Arabia began its military action in March 2015, more than 12,000 people have died.
The Saudis are responsible for many deaths in Yemen, but they also claim they're the biggest provider of food and aid to the country. Does the Yemeni public value Saudi aid while Saudi bombs are hitting their hospitals, their towns and their cities at the same time? This is a silly thing, and it shows that the organization has no power whatsoever in the world, not even in Yemen.
There is a huge awareness of the media misleading the people of the area. Therefore, the Yemenis are the ones who know their enemy the best through their actions so far.
It's known that all the aid in Yemen exists in hospitals, like with Doctors Without Borders, and they're being bombed. Everyone knows their aid is to the displaced people, but they're providing us with rockets and bombs, nothing else, and we need nothing from them but to keep their harm away from us. They don't provide food, they provide murders and bloodshed of women and children.
And make it easy for Israel to establish their so-called Greater Israel. They say we offer food and medicine, but why don't they look at stopping the killing of women and children and innocent people in their homes?
Saudi Arabia provides the world with money and provides people with food one time and kills them another time. 90% killing and 10% medicine, and claims to be patriotic and humanitarian and have morals and religion. Well, they're just liars with none of this. What did they support with us?
They are actually launching, and they have totally blockaded the entire country. No airplanes are allowed to land in Sana'a. The ports are absolutely blockaded. Several attempts to actually ship aid to this country have been completely blocked by Saudi Arabia and the Americans. So I do refute the claim that they're actually providing aid to this country. They want to subjugate the people of Yemen. They want to severely punish them. They want to teach them a lesson and to send out the message throughout the Islamic and Arab world. That is exactly what happens to people who dare to challenge us, dare to defy us, dare to stand up to us, dare to say no. They want Yemen as their backyard garden. They want the Yemeni people to bomb them into submission, to let them, force them into bowing to the Saudi will with the help of the Americans. So I don't believe that aid is coming through. They have bombed all the hospitals, they've bombed the infrastructure, even funeral halls, they've chased them with bombs. Those are all innocent civilians who are paying a heavy price for what the Saudi leadership are responsible for.
Majority of them and people of the Yemeni people are against Saudi Arabia, and we can see that from the demonstrations from time to time. That is one thing. So therefore, the people are against Saudi Arabia now. And the second thing, that they are besieging the port. So how could they provide food or provide medicine and so on? All the people in the world, they say, please, Saudi Arabia, don't besiege because people are dying. They don't care. They want to kill people. Simple.
It has been suggested that the UN has failed to adequately punish and criticize the Saudis for their crimes in Yemen because the Saudis give significant funding to the United Nations. What does that tell us about the regime? We asked the Yemeni public. It's obvious that Saudi Arabia is only a money-making cow for the United States and the world, and only a front for the Arabs.
Of course, Saudi Arabia is misleading the world to justify their horrible crimes and massacres of civilians. Of course, the only aid we get is rockets, bombs, and forbidden weapons which destroys Yemenis. Even if the UN is not subject to the Saudis, it is known that the UN always takes the side of the rich ones. They never support the case of the poor and those suffering injustice.
Saudi Arabia is afraid of the scandal and to be exposed in front of everyone and to show their true hatred towards the Arabian and Islamic nation. And the UN is the holder of Saudi Arabia, which is the heart of Zionism, wearing Arabian wardrobes and using an Arabian tongue, but with devilish Western hearts.
We are confident that the violations filed in Yemen will remain and will be taken care of in the right time. Therefore, Saudi Arabia's turn is coming to be judged in courts.
Those are just lies and illusions to fool the UN about their role in the massacres in Yemen. The UN must know that our great people knows what the UN is, a senior supporter just like America and Israel. They are also complicit in the crimes happening in Yemen.
Even the medicine is corrupted and didn't even reach Sana'a. Even the UN are mercenaries. America bought Saudi Arabia with its money. The UN and America are bought with money. Just give us some money and we'll cover you. And there are no Security Council or United Nations. They keep lying to the people. And it all became obvious in the war on Yemen. Even the organizations just want the money and they care about no one else.
An institution, it is completely bankrupt. If that's the language they use, it shows and it demonstrates all too clearly that it is not fit for purpose. It's not serving the people that need it most. That is the desperate people, the innocent civilians being bombed day in, day out for 2.5 years using the most sophisticated weaponry that's being exported by the United States. It's not doing its job, and what adds insult to injury is the leader of the United Nations Ban Ki-moon coming out in an unprecedented, unparalleled statement saying that I've been actually intimidated, I've been harassed, I've been blackmailed by a country which is member of this organization, that is the Saudi government, forcing me to change my mind.
Well, I hope, as I said before, last time they reprimanded Saudi Arabia, then they withdrew that statement. Now I hope with this new secretary that they will do something about this, because there are great voices in the whole world about the problems in Yemen. Disease problems, refugees, and so on. So probably something will happen, I hope, soon, at least to rectify the situation to some extent.
And so the bombings continue, with Saudi forces regularly killing people in hotels and in residential areas in a campaign which has already killed many thousands. It has even caused a United Nations spokesman for the Secretary General to state, "Any attack on civilians is unacceptable. This is a message we have often repeated, and we will continue to repeat."
But while the UN condemns the Saudi killing of Yemeni civilians, it seems unwilling to take any serious action to punish those responsible. At the same time, Britain and America appear determined to support the military campaign in a very practical way. It all means the Saudi-led coalition is likely to continue its slaughter of the Yemeni people, because with allies this powerful and resources so huge, Riyadh simply knows it can and will continue to get away with it.